Hi Hassan, really well done for submitting these essays. It's great and shows great steps towards improving your English in the best way you possibly can, which is wonderful. So your first piece was a letter about the job opening. Okay, so first of all, clearly you've taken on board that it is a letter, which is great. So you've got the proper format for a letter with a good greeting, a good sign off, and so on. Good, well done. Let's start to have a look at what you've got then. So I'm contacting you with regard to the job opening number 11222, Senior Information Management Engineer. Okay, well done. Now, this is a great way to start the letter. It's very clear. Just make sure you have the full stop with no space between engineer and the full stop. And what we would need for the title of the job, because it's the name of the job, is to have capital letters there. So Senior Information Management Engineer, capital first letters, so S-I-M-E, all in uppercase letters. Okay, kindly be informed that I have a bachelor degree on computer science and I've graduated from the UK on 2004. Okay, so now this first part I would take out, so kindly be informed that this is just because this is a phrase that we would normally use perhaps in a letter of complaint, or if we are saying something that maybe the other person doesn't want to hear. Okay, so we could take that one out. We could say, I have a bachelor degree in computer science and I graduated from the UK in 2004. Okay, so here, when you say from, it would be good to have the name of the university in 2004, or I graduated in the UK in 2004. Okay. Furthermore, I have, instead of I have several professional certificates, such as Oracle Certified Professional, so OCP, because this is the name of the qualification. Again, uppercase letters, so OCP in uppercase, and Microsoft Certified Professional, again, C and P in uppercase, so Microsoft Certified C uppercase Professional. Consequently, I am highly trained and a seasoned engineer equipped with well-recognized certifications, which I strongly believe give me an edge over other candidates. Okay, great phrase to use. Good. Let's just go through that sentence once more. Consequently, I am a highly trained and seasoned engineer equipped with well-recognized certifications, which I strongly believe give me an edge over other candidates. Moreover, I have passion for this role since I have significant experience in this field. Okay, so I have passion for this role, or we could say I am passionate, so P-A-S-S-I-O-N-A-T-E, passionate about this role since I have significant experience in this field. Okay, and just remember no space before your full stop, so always having the full stop directly after the last letter throughout all of that paragraph. Okay. I am exceedingly keen to join your organisation since it has a stellar reputation and it will add immense value to my career. Okay, so we don't need the word throughout here. Okay. Additionally, I am pretty sure that I will be an instrumental member in your organisation and I will contribute effectively to your company's growth, progression, and prosperity. Okay, so using the nouns here, growth, progression, and prosperity, and using the possessive companies with an apostrophe S. Now, there is one thing I would say about your lexical range here, is that the inferred meaning of I'm pretty sure is that we're not completely sure. And because this is trying to show our interest in a job, we need to be very confident and say, additionally, I will be an instrumental member in your organisation and I will contribute effectively. Because if we say I'm pretty sure, it adds an element of doubt. Okay, doesn't show that we're very confident that we'll be an instrumental member. Okay, so I will be an instrumental member. Okay, we're done, good. My experience spans, with an S, over 10 years. Around 10 years. I would say approximately 10 years. Therefore, I have significant experience in the same role, which would allow me to become a distinguished engineer. Okay. Last but not least, if you require any additional materials or information, I would be happy to provide it. Okay, so just to go through that one more time, my experience spans over approximately 10 years. Therefore, I have significant experience in the same role, which would allow me, because we're talking hypothetically, if you got the job, it would allow me to become a distinguished engineer, full stop. Last but not least, if you require any additional materials or information, I would be happy to provide it. Okay, thank you very much for your consideration. Yours faithfully. Well done. Yeah, good. So a good ending to the letter with yours faithfully. A polite sign off as well with thank you very much for your consideration is great. Just going back to the punctuation, because this is also key to the writing exam, making sure there are no spaces in between. So your last letter and the full stop, the space comes after. So for example here, to become a distinguished engineer, just after the R we need a full stop, so no space, then a space, then a capital letter, so capital L after the space. Okay, so always having the last letter, the punctuation mark, then a gap. Okay, so that one. That's the same for commas as well, but after a comma, we don't need a capital letter. So we use comma, space, lowercase letter. Okay. Additionally, thinking about punctuation, this semicolon here is not necessary, so we can take that one out, and there's no need for a symbol in there. Okay, the rest of the punctuation is good. Some great use of vocabulary. Okay, so moreover, furthermore, additionally, last but not least, these are all great phrases to use. So very well done, a good piece of writing. Good work, well done. Let's have a look at your longer piece of writing now then, with the essay question. And you had, for your introduction, you had people migration, transfer, or even movement from rural areas to urban ones is a phenomenon which has grown in importance over the last decades. It has been argued among the experts in developing and developed countries whether the merits of this predominant phenomenon outnumber the demerits. Personally, I firmly agree that pros are far more than cons due to the fact that this essay will discuss both sides using example from USA and Oxford University to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, well done. So your introduction follows a good structure. You've outlined the idea of the question, you've given your opinion, and then you have outlined what the essay is going to do. Okay, let's look at it a little bit more closely. Okay, so at the beginning, we don't need the 3 examples here. So because the question is about movement from rural to urban areas, we don't need the 3 synonyms. So I would say that we take out the first 5 words and say movement with a capital M from rural areas to urban ones is a phenomenon which has grown in importance over the last decades. Okay, it has been argued among experts, so among experts in developing and developed countries, whether the So here, whether the advantages of this phenomenon outnumber the disadvantages. Okay, and then full stop with no space before it, so a space after it. Personally, I firmly agree that the pros are far greater than the cons due to the fact that, okay, so we're missing something at the end of this sentence. It's an incomplete sentence here. Is it that you didn't want this part in there and instead you were saying, personally, I firmly agree that the pros are far greater than the cons, full stop. Okay, this essay will discuss both sides with an S because it's plural, using examples with an S because we've got more than one, from the USA and Oxford University to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, well done, good. So, moving on to the next paragraph. To begin with, there are ample reasons that induce most of youngsters to leave their villages to cities. Okay, so there are ample reasons that persuade youngsters to leave their villages and move to cities. Okay, or we could say to cause. There are ample reasons that cause youngsters to leave their villages and move to cities. Okay, the reason behind this is twofold, full stop. Firstly, capital F, better quality of life, and secondly, better educational opportunities. Okay, that is largely because the paucity of educational resources and job vacancies in the rural areas. So this is largely because of the lack of educational resources and job, no S, vacancies in rural areas, no the. Full stop, no space before, space afterwards. For instance, the recent study by Oxford University divulged that 45% of rural areas in the UK lack higher education institutes and job opportunities. Okay, so first of all, this verb divulge is not quite the right word here. We need to use states, or stated. So the recent study by Oxford University stated, or found even, that 45% of rural areas in the UK lack higher education institutions and job opportunities. Okay. Therefore, it is conclusively clear, no S, that these factors constitute, no S, the major spur for people to migrate from rural to urban areas. Okay, so these factors constitute the main reason, I would say, main reason for people to migrate, not migration, so the verb migrate, migrate, from rural to urban areas. Okay, next one. On the one hand, there are many merits resulted from the migration from countryside to cities. There is ample evidence, because it's singular, that proves that urban areas benefit from migration to rural areas. The central advantage is twofold. Firstly, there are a great deal of people are shifted from villages to modern areas, especially whom are seeking better employment opportunities will usually get better paid, consequently increase their income and improve their financial situation, which eventually enhance society, prosperity, living standards. Okay, now this is a very long sentence here, which is leading slightly to a bit of confusion. Okay, so firstly, a great deal of people shift from villages to urban areas to seek better employment opportunities and get better paid. Full stop. Consequently, this increases their income and improves their financial situation, which eventually enhances prosperity and living standards. Secondly, due to the ever increasing number of youngsters who come from rural areas to join higher education institutes in urban areas, as a result, the number of educational people, or students perhaps, spiked significantly, which helps to a great extent in will help to a great extent in the development and prosperity of urban areas. For instance, in America, 80% of people are migrating and working hard in cities for the development of the country. Therefore, it is possible to state beyond doubt, no S, beyond, B-E-Y-O-N-D, doubt, no S, that migration from rural to urban areas has positive impacts on development of cities. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is that we have two paragraphs that are very similar. So because in the exam you have a short word limit, this is perhaps unnecessary, this part of the essay, this paragraph here, or this one is becoming unnecessary. So it would be good to have one or the other, but not both. Arguably, this second one is more well-rounded, okay? But we could say that it's a little too long. The first one is a little more concise, which is good, and it is well-rounded. It's just shorter than this one. So you've got that it's conclusively clear that these factors constitute the major reason for people to migrate from rural to urban areas. You've got all of the points here. That it's just a little bit more descriptive in the second one. So in order to avoid repeating yourself too much, it would be good to choose one or the other. Personally, if I were to think about it, I would say this first one is more concise, which is good. You could add a little bit more information about job opportunities. So, for example, the 80% in America, and then use this paragraph instead of the next one. Okay. Let's move on to the other side of the argument then. On the other hand, leaving rural areas and working or studying in cities has, instead of had, serious repercussions on development of the countryside. Good, well done. This is largely because if people leave rural areas for better education and lucrative job opportunities, no S, in modern areas, there will be no advancement in rural areas and it will remain underdeveloped for a long time since the migration of qualified manpower. Okay, good. So this sentence is very descriptive, okay, and we've mentioned a lot of these points already. And so what I would suggest is that we say this is largely because if people leave rural areas, there will be no advancement in those areas and it will remain underdeveloped for a long time, full stop. Okay. Additionally, some crucial professions will be abandoned, namely farming, which will lead to negative ramifications, especially ESPECIALLY, on the national economic growth. Okay. For example, the recent study by Oxford University revealed, that 35% of rural areas in Scotland has been negatively impacted by the migration of people. Good, okay, so we can take out this last part from rural areas to urban ones, so we could just say impacted by the migration of people. Hence, it is conclusively clear that such migration has dire consequences on the development and prosperity of rural areas and the local economy. Okay, good. Now, be careful with using the same phrase to end your paragraph. So this paragraph has also got, it is conclusively clear. And then we've got it again here. What we want to do is to vary that, so to really show your lexical range by using something different here. So hence it is evident, for example. It is evident that such migration. Okay. Okay, so to conclude, from the above examples and arguments given, whether migration from villages to cities has positive or negative implications, I exceedingly believe that. Okay, now we, as you can see here, this one is an incomplete conclusion. So there's, I exceedingly, or I truly believe that, what? That migration is important, that migration is very damaging, that we should find ways to keep people in rural areas. This part needs completing. Okay. For the part before, I would say from the above examples and arguments about the advantages and disadvantages of migration, so make that slightly shorter, I truly believe that, so then complete your opinion here. Okay, so just to review what we've been through, because there's a few different points in this one. As we mentioned, your introduction was good, okay, but we can make it even more concise. Your next two paragraphs are very, very similar. You've got almost the same points in both. So I would suggest keeping the first paragraph, adding a little bit about jobs, so particularly this evidence here on working hard in cities for the development of a country is a good example, putting that in here, and then eliminating this paragraph because it's repetition. The next paragraph is good. What we said was just to vary your phrase at the end so that it's not the same as the last one. And then with your conclusion, so you've got a good outlining phrase there about examples and arguments, but you've got an incomplete opinion, so finishing off that opinion. In terms of grammar, be careful again, like last time, with your spaces and punctuation. So if you have a comma, you need a space afterwards, not before. The same with full stops. So for example here, you'd have development, full stop straight after the T, no space before the full stop. Okay. In terms of, we mentioned lexical range, but to speak about your vocabulary more at length, I would say you've got some very good vocabulary in here. Do focus on using synonyms as well, because there are some words that are repeated, like prosperity, conclusively clear, evidence. So try to vary those as much as possible. And as we mentioned about the cohesion of your writing, that would be these two paragraphs. So eliminating the second paragraph, developing the first one slightly by talking about job opportunities and giving that example. But yeah, two very good pieces of writing. So really well done, and well done for submitting them.